The president feels like we have more support in the international community for sanctions than we've ever had before, and he feels very confident that this spring we will be able to move forward with an agreement of those nations.
There are no sanctions being discussed now in the UN Security Council which will have any material impact on Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons if and when they're ever adopted. The fact is the sanctions idea has moved from being ineffective to being counterproductive.
Well, two very different points of view on sanctions against Iran for their efforts to get a nuclear weapon. Late this afternoon, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, after a conference call with members of the P5+1, that's the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council in Germany, said there is unanimity, saying even Russia and China are united in moving forward with a sanctions resolution, and that diplomats have agreed to start drafting such a sanctions resolution. What about this and where we're headed? We're back with the panel. Charles.
Well, there's an achievement. After a year and 3 months, the other guys have agreed to start drafting a resolution on sanctions, which I can assure you is going to be useless. Look, we've learned anything in 60 years of having a UN and international organizations. It is that when you try to achieve unanimity, you get mush. It's a law of nature. It's impossible otherwise. You've got the Chinese here, who are the ones who have no intention of slowing Iran down. China has huge economic relations, investments in Iran. It doesn't want to see any damage. And Iran, in fact, it's becoming a huge oil supplier. So it's not going to help us in the end, and we know this in advance. So what we'll get will be a resolution that'll have, at most, effects on the margin. It will not affect the program. It probably will not even slow it down. This is all a charade. And the reason it's damaging is because we're able to go a year and 3 months pretending that we're making progress here. If all of this didn't exist, if we didn't have a UN and we didn't have IAEA and sanctions proposed, we would have to face a stark reality. Iran's going nuclear. What are we going to do? And we don't ask that because we have an ongoing kabuki affair. We've heard stories about difficulties that the Iranians have been having technically on spinning uranium, and also the question of whether some of their uranium is contaminated. If any of that is true, if any of it is related to sabotage through our intelligence agencies or other Western intelligence agencies, it's a good thing, and it's the only good news that we have heard about Iran in the last year. I would simply add that there was another option other than a military attack, and that was regime change. And this administration did absolutely nothing at the height of the uprising last year to support the democratic demonstrators in the streets, which would have given us a real option other than a military option.
Nothing publicly. We don't know what happened.
If we don't know, we haven't seen a scintilla of evidence of anything covert.